I am Zach Reed, and this is the Dynasty Dummies rookie hootenanny. I have J Mike at J Mike Check and Matt Foreman at Fat Mormon with me. We are back. We're excited. It's the 2022 rookie season. It's just like we never left. Fellas, how are you? Don't all speak at once.
I cannot tell you how good it is to see both of your faces, to be back here in rookie season, to get back to one of the things that brought us together in the first place. And it's the hootenanny, baby. we got a prodigal back with us. Matt, what's good, man? So much life since the last time you joined.
Yeah, I was living with the in-laws, so I didn't really have a whole lot of space there. But we are back in our own humble abode. I think the last time I was on here, I didn't have a child, so that certainly things have been a lot different since then as well too. So he's currently sleeping about 20 feet that direction. But yeah, doing well. Happy to be here with you guys. Looking forward to this for a couple weeks now. So happy to be mixing it up with you fine gentlemen.
There's a new 101 in the Foreman household.
Yes,
that's exciting.
Yes, currently testing in the 80th percentile for his height for his age group. So, what is he? The class of 2043. Look out!
PMI Twitter is going to be so happy.
Yes,
that Spark score. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And this is gonna be the blindside 2.0. Like if he goes to Pitt, we're gonna have a serious problem. He's going to Penn State to play football if he's playing football. There's no discussion. I will disown the child. I actually created him in NCAA 14, and he went to Clemson over Penn State. So I mean, number one tight end recruit in the nation, 6'8", 5-star, went to Clemson. What are you gonna do?
There's nothing you can do at that point. I mean,
no.
he's living his best life. You just have to let him at that point.
Yeah, I mean, James Franklin, Dabo. I'm probably picking Dabo too. So,
well, the beauty of where we are is we get to start wherever we like, and just to be able to give everyone a general idea of where we're coming from with the hootenanny, if you will. This is our scouting bonanza. This is something that we love to be able to do over here at the DFP in at work, the only at work in town. And one of the beautiful parts of this is that we're just a few guys not getting paid to do this. A few guys who very much enjoy this process, to be able to watch some film, grind film, if you will, burn that midnight oil, and really enjoy the process of being able to tell others what we see. So we're not professional scouts. We're not folks who are seeing every fine detail that is going to make the Cleveland Browns trade up to get whomever Nick Chubb's heir apparent will be. We don't know all of those things, but we're happy to be able to share with everyone who's willing to listen what we see, things that we have obviously seen success in previously, and try to be able to help folks get a better understanding of, hey, when you're organizing your rookie board and when you're getting to these rookie drafts, what you should be looking for, and perhaps maybe even doing some film work on your own to be able to dive a little bit deeper. But again, tonight you will be getting our film grades. So this isn't final. There's so much of the process that's left to be done, but this is where we start. This is the genesis, if you will. Zach, can you give a little bit more color as to what we'll be doing this evening?
Well, and I think that it's very important too to understand that, at least from my perspective, and I think you two gentlemen also, we're coming at it from a fantasy football perspective. And so that lens is a little bit different than Lance Zierlein and the guys who are scouting for the NFL. I don't have the Mel Kiper hair. I don't even have the Todd McShay hair. So like, that's not what we're doing. We're evaluating for fantasy football, and what we are going to do is kick it off with DLF. Our friends over at DLF do their own rookie ranks, and we're just going to go down through tonight the top 6 running backs that they have. They may not be our top 6. Spoiler alert, they're not my top 6. But it gives us a good place to jump off. It gives us a little bit of a platform, someplace we can take off from, and then carry on. And we'll do 6 this week, 6 next week, and then I usually will put out a who did we miss after we do our running backs, after we do our wide receivers, and catch anybody else that you'd like to hear. But it's just getting you familiar with who's in the class, familiar with who we like. So when the combine comes around, when the draft comes around, when your rookie draft comes around, it's not the first time you've heard these names, and maybe you'll be a little more comfortable with who you're taking.
I think you guys, I think one thing that's important is, I think just getting into this and just getting your hands dirty is definitely something I'd recommend. I think learning from your process, I think learning from your mistakes and things that you saw that were correct. I think that's the biggest thing anyone can do. I mean, and the other thing is, don't just look at highlights. Obviously, the highlights, if you just watch highlights, you're going to think every player is the next Barry Sanders. And unfortunately, that's not the case. But I think, like I said, I think just taking some time, even if you're watching 1, 2, 3 games, just being familiar with these players. Okay, I can see this, I can see that. I think we can all find 30 minutes a day to take a look at a player, or you know what I mean. It's just something that I found refreshing. But instead of just reading about other people think, making your own assessments is important as well too. And obviously, hearing what other people have to say, so you can kind of bounce those ideas off, is important as well too. But I think creating your own judgment is very important,
especially for all of the leagues that you may be in, whether it be one Dynasty league or some of our other friends who are in many more. The beauty of being able to form your own opinion will allow you to be able to be at ease and not be pointing the finger at anybody else for the success or for the blame when things go terribly wrong. Not going to bring up John Kelly or Ronald Jones this evening. With that said, we are kicking things off again, going down the list of what DLF has as their top 6 running backs. Kicking off with one running back, Breece Hall, out of Iowa State. Depending upon where you have him listed, anywhere between 6'1", 215, 220 pounds. And my goodness, Breece, the heir to the David Montgomery throne there for the Cyclones in the Big 12. We saw Breece Hall finish his last year at Iowa State, his junior season, for over 1,400 yards on the ground, over 300 yards receiving. And yes, you all know, if you're new to the program, we've got the Zach Reed rule, where if the running back is showing over 20 catches per season, that is a good thing to see, having a season with over 20 catches. And this man, 23 as a freshman, 23 as a sophomore, and then 36 this last season for Iowa State. Listen, 56 total touchdowns over his career in 3 years. It seems as though when you listen to a lot of folks, Breece Hall is at the top of many lists for running back. Zach, we'll give you the first word. When you put eyes on Breece Hall, what do you think?
So I think if you're looking for a splash player, someone with the ability to score anytime the ball is in his hands, you're going to want to keep moving, because Breece Hall is not that. But what Hall is the center of a cyclone. He's calm and steadily moving forward while the world outside him tears itself to pieces trying to stop him. Hall's been the steadiest back in the 2022 class. Like you said, rolled up nearly 4,000 yards rushing, over 50 touchdowns in his 3 years at Iowa State. He's done most of this damage between the tackles, where Hall has tremendous vision. And although he doesn't possess elite speed, he does beat defenders with his knack for making them turn their hips, which forces missed tackles. So what he will do is he will plant hard at an outside foot, so one side of the defender or the other, make them commit, turn that hip, and then he'll go the other way. And he's really good at doing that. And I also think Hall has very good feet in traffic. Has the ability to step over and around would-be tacklers when there's a lot of mess on the ground around him. Adept in the passing game, hauling in over 20 receptions a season. I think there are a lot of really nice things to Breece Hall's game.
Foreman, it's on you. What you got?
I hate going after Zach. He always takes all my good points. No, I think Breece is a fine player. I think he's going to be an okay player. I don't think he's going to win any leagues. I'm going to mimic what Zach said. I think he's a fine running back. I think as a whole, the players I've seen so far, I haven't been. There's nothing that's blowing me away. I think we have a lot of RB2s in this class. That nothing from this class thus far has been where I'm going to be like, okay, this guy is a plug and play. He's a starter. There's no Najee Harrises in this class where they're going to, okay, we're going to commit to giving this guy 350 touches. But getting back to Breece, he's tough to bring down. I did notice some drops. He's a bit droppy in the past game. Also some noticeable fumbles. If you're watching 6 games and he fumbles it 3 times, that's obviously a concern for me there as well too. He was very inconsistent in pass protection. Again, what Zach said, he's got okay speed. I don't think he's got anything that's going to blow you away. I'd probably say he's probably going to be a latter 4.5, early 4.6 guy in terms of speed. He's a bit of a strider. Runs well. I think he's a prototypical 2-down back who's given the ball between the tackles. He's going to be great in the red zone. Like J Mike said, 56 career total touchdowns. The guy's got a nose for the end zone if nothing else. So like I said, fine player. Nothing blew me away about him.
One of the things that I really did enjoy about Breece was his ability, specifically in the open field, to get defenders off balance. And not all running backs, and not even most running backs, have the ability to put the defender in a bind and just make them think twice or make them false step. Over and over, he does that, and it's really cool to see. One of the other pieces, and you all hit a lot of what I like about Breece. That ability, obviously, to lull people to sleep, but then also give you enough burst to make the most of what he can do. And he's not consistently big play. He's not consistently, but he will show flashes of legitimate brilliance at the position. I wish it was more consistent. And I love his let me rephrase. I like his 2021 tape so much more than his 2020 tape. 2020 left a lot to be desired. 2021, we saw a little bit more decisiveness, a little bit more power, a little bit more ground to him to be able to really make decisions. Now, with all of those things said, as we said before, Breece not a perfect prospect, not someone that we are over the moon about. I'm going to jump in on this one first real quick in terms of one of the things that I'm not so thrilled about when it comes to him. He loses a lot of one-on-ones at the line of scrimmage, a lot. And even though he can get defenders off balance, I don't know how many times I saw him get tackled with one leg, like one of his legs just get grabbed and he goes down. And it's not necessarily a matter of balance, just a matter of the power that he brings along. And again, when he gets his momentum going, it's nice to see. But being able to get a defender leaning is one piece of the puzzle, but also making sure that you're beating said defenders is another thing. There's a fine line between patience and indecisiveness.
Yeah.
You'll see people comp him to David Montgomery or Lev Bell and things of that nature, and I don't know that he's really up in either of those instances as it pertains to as a prospect. So I'll leave it there with my thoughts on Breece. Foreman, we'll kick it to you first for things about Breece that you're not too thrilled about. I know you touched on a little bit of it, but anything else you want to add to what you said there?
I just want to get the drops. The drops concern me. He's catching the ball, but he's dropping the ball. I think those are important as well too. I think he's inconsistent in the pass game. The fumbles are the biggest concern to me. If you're fumbling in the college, you're probably going to fumble in the NFL. We've seen it plague runners year after year where it just doesn't translate. And it's something you can work on, but it's something I'm not going to count you working on. Not every player is going to become Tiki Barber, where you come from eating popcorn before every game to you suddenly have hands of steel. It just doesn't happen all the time, and we see it because it doesn't happen that often. Tiki Barber was kind of a rarity there. So I'd like fine player. it's just nothing says, yes, I'm excited to draft Breece Hall.
And so, J-Mike, I think when you said patience, to me, pace and patience can be an asset, but I think Hall periodically falls in love with trying to pick the perfect running lane instead of a running lane, and he stops sometimes behind the line of scrimmage. And when that happens, it's usually disastrous. Yep. And I think he also, and this is something that's a pet peeve of mine, and maybe it's fine, but he also gets enamored with his spin move. And although that's fitting for a Cyclone, turning his back on running lanes and the defense gets him into trouble. And so that's something that I don't like. It's the same thing to me as a point guard. If you use a spin move as a point guard, same thing as a runner, you're losing sight of where you're going and what's happening in front of you. And that's ultimately where you're headed. And then to me, unlike the best runners from past classes like Nick Chubb and Jonathan Taylor, Breece Hall isn't a home run waiting to happen. He just isn't. There weren't very many times where you saw him break a long run and finish the long run. You know, Hall's a doubles hitter, but I think that's okay. In a running back class that appears rife with pitfalls, I think Breece Hall should be a steady producer with potential to earn a 3-down role in the NFL. I mean, obviously draft capital and all that, but I think he can be a 3-down back in the NFL, has got enough pass catching chops, and is big enough to keep that the goal line stuff. So ultimately, I think he's the best running back in this class, which says something about this class.
Man, Breece.
Yeah, I have concerns about his 3-down ability.
And I think I'm somewhere in between. I think I don't want to hedge there, but we've talked enough Breece at this point. Good player, the ability to hit home runs, the consistency is it is what it is, and obviously a super producer in college. So we'll see what things as far as the process continues forward in this 9-point scoring season, how things continue to unfold. We'll move on to DLF's number 2 ranked running back thus far, one Isaiah Spiller out of Texas A&M, and another third-year guy here. So we had his junior season, not as gaudy of numbers when it comes to the rushing stats or the passing stats or the touchdowns as Breece Hall. What we see that he was what seemed to be pretty fresh in terms of total workload. Only 500 carries over those 3 seasons at Texas A&M. In this last season, 1,011 yards on the ground. Again, Zach Reed rule approved. 29 receptions as a freshman, 20 receptions as a sophomore, and 25 as a junior, and 26 total touchdowns over his collegiate career. Anywhere where you look regarding Isaiah Spiller, 6'1", 215, 6'1", 225. We'll see what number shakes out there as we get more information throughout this process. But Foreman, I'll give you the first word here on the best running back from the Aggies since ?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure who the last dominant Aggie running back was. Mr. Spiller. So I think he's a very natural route runner. I was impressed with his route running ability. He's got pretty good vision. I really like his jump cut. I thought that was something where he does well. I find that he's patient, but I'm going to get back to that a little bit later. I think there's something I want to definitely touch on that when we get back to the negative section. Fights your arm tackles. He's a tough runner. I think he does a good job of making the first defender miss. I liked his pass protection better than Hall's pass protection. Something I really like looking at the pass protection. I want to see that you can stand in there, and I want to see that you can block. I don't want to see you diving at ankles. I want to see you get your hands up, and I want to see you block your assignment. It's a pet peeve of mine. He had a fumble small fumble there. Good burst. Takes on contact very well, hard runner. He can be explosive at times. I wouldn't say he's all the time. Great on the wheel route. He's just an overall versatile weapon. When I turned him on, I was talking to someone last night. I turned him on and I watched his first game, and I'm like, this is what people wanted Rodney Anderson to be. I know Zach, I know you hate comps. Yeah. You hate comps. But I turned him on. I'm like, this is what people wanted Rodney Anderson to be. And I feel bad because the guy just has glass, whatever. He's got Laffy Taffy for ACLs. But that's the player I saw. That's the player I saw. And I think that he can be a versatile weapon. And I think if we have it, if out of these first two guys, if there's a 3-down back, I think it's Spiller.
Very well. Zach, your turn, sir.
You guys ever see Iron Chef? I'm old school, so I saw the original Japanese version of it. But yeah, cuisson. In Kitchen Stadium, Iron Chefs are presented with an array of raw ingredients and tasked with cooking up a delicacy. And I think Isaiah Spiller's game may still be in the test kitchen, but there's a lot to like. So Spiller's better than average as a pass catcher. And like Matt said, even more intriguing is his ability to run routes. You don't always see that with running backs. You see a lot of guys who can get out in the flat, but you're seeing Spiller on wheel routes. You're seeing Spiller split out wide. You're seeing him do some things as a receiver that is better than the average back. And so he's not just limited to the simple screen passes. Spiller can use his speed to get outside the tackles, but he's also capable of working inside. He's got good vision and power, and he never shies away from a hit, running through tacklers, keeping his leg churning, and finishing forward. So that's what I see as the really nice pieces to Isaiah Spiller's game.
I don't want people are going to hear this and they're going to call me crazy. And I'm going to say it.
Bring it. Yeah.
People are going they'll aggregate this. So he's not this player. So I just want to be very clear. He's not this level prospect, not this player. Just when I watch him, and it's not his number, because I removed all of this from my head as I'm watching. When I watch him, if someone told me that there was a less gifted player that was modeling their game after this person, I get it. I feel like it's almost like he watched a ton of Adrian Peterson tape. Like he just watches a ton of AP tape, and he's not AP. Like I want to be very clear, but in terms of when I watch him, and again, it's not the number. People are going to be like, "Oh, no." I'm
tweeting out now that I'm tweeting out now you're comping him to Adrian Peterson. Okay, I'm okay.
All day,
yeah,
all day, baby. If someone told me that he watched tape and that's like what he tried to do, I get that. I think there's a lot of variety to his game that really drew me to him. Subtle cuts, violent cuts, accelerating through contact, being able, and it's funny, out of all the games that I watched, I think I only charted 2 drops, and they were both on wheel routes up the left-hand side, which was interesting. But I do love his ability to pick through trash. And while he can be inconsistent at times in one-on-ones at the line of scrimmage, which is something that I feel like is something that you have to be able to make the first defender miss, or be able to make the one defender miss who's not being blocked on whatever scheme. We see him, I feel like, time and again falling forward, and it's not a case of him being bullied ever, which is heartening for me. I love the way that he's able to chain moves together. There are some things that give me a little bit of pause about Isaiah, though. Again, not the perfect prospect, but we like some of the things that he's got going on. Zach, I'll kick it to you first. And things that give you just a little bit of pause regarding Isaiah Spiller.
So I'm going to go back to his affinity for contact, and the drawback to that is he gets hit hard at the second level a lot. Where like he'll come through with that burst, and then all of a sudden just get smoked by a linebacker, and that is concerning to me at the next level, because all of a sudden those linebackers aren't 220 pounds. the linebackers are 250, 260, and are hitting you with the force of a car crash. He also, I think, slows his momentum sometimes to make cuts, and that leaves him susceptible to some of those big hits. So I think that's part of what I'm seeing at the second level too. Spiller has a tendency in blitz pickup sometimes to overcommit. And so Matt talked about him getting his hands up and blocking. He does that, but sometimes he gets too far to one side of his assignment and he kind of loses that contain, which to me is just as bad as diving at somebody's feet. Again, this is like, he's very good, but I don't think Spiller is polished. His skill set does make him a very interesting back in this class, especially since this class is a down class, at least in my estimation. So it pushes Isaiah Spiller up a little bit.
Foreman, over to you.
Okay. Who was that running back we had like 3 years ago, that running back from Kansas State that y'all loved, and he like tested off the charts like the broad jump? What was his name?
I see him in my mind's eye.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I can't.
Yeah, you guys loved him. You guys loved him, and I don't remember.
No.
I don't know what team he's playing for these days. I remember it being Zach. It was mostly Zach and Kyle, but I'm gonna use the royal you here. I want this man to run the ball. I just want him to run. I was so mad trying to watch him be indecisive all the time. Young man, put your foot in the ground and run. It was so frustrating to watch. Yes.
Alex Barnes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like, I just wanted him to run. Like, I said, oh, he's patient. Oh, he's patient. He's not patient. He's indecisive. And I did not want to watch him. It wasn't as bad as Barnes because I turned Barnes off. I couldn't watch it. I couldn't watch it. The man was stuck in second gear. Spiller's not that bad. It's behind the line of scrimmage. He's watching. He turned off the Adrian Peterson tape and turned on the Le'Veon Bell tape, and that's what he's trying to do. And young man, put your foot in the ground and run. It was very frustrating for me to watch. One of the interesting things I saw, it was more in 2020 than less in 2021, but they were using a gadget player in goal to go situations over him, and I didn't understand that. Because I don't know if that was Jimbo being Jimbo, or if that was they saw something there, but I just found it interesting that a guy who I thought ran with a good amount of power was not being used in goal to go situations. But yeah, guys, he just needs to put his foot in the ground and go, because if you're dancing, those running through power is not going to happen when you got Vita Vea on the other side. You're just going to get tackled for a 2-yard loss.
And it's interesting you say that too, because I kind of merging what you both said into one thing. His sometimes inability to make second level defenders miss is worrisome, because you see the speed, and I think that sometimes he relies a little bit too much on the speed to win beyond the first level, and also inviting that contact. And as he invites contact, very Kylan Hill-esque when he gets like ying, like just like getting squared up on at times, even though he's delivering a lot of punishment. So there's so much I feel like that I like about his game, and just the variability about what he does. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see what the Capitol looks like along with Breece Hall, and where he's getting put in terms of ability to succeed with an offensive line that hopefully will get some push for both of those guys. So 2 running backs down. Is everyone feeling good so far? Are we cruising along? Anybody need a pit stop, a break, get a snack? Everybody good?
Well, the nice thing is we can slide right by the pass catching on the next prospect, so that'll quicken things up. So if you do need that,
very good. I just know we haven't done this for a while, so I didn't know if we needed to ease into it or take break, whatever. But here we are. Running back number 3 on the evening, one Kenneth Walker III, out of Michigan State. 5'10", 210, stout young fella. spent his first couple of seasons at Wake Forest, where decent player, didn't get a ton of burn, didn't get a ton of production, transfers out to Michigan State. And it's pretty funny how he transfers to Michigan State. Michigan State has an awesome year. Wake Forest had a pretty good season themselves without Kenneth Walker there. Call it what you will. I don't know. Kenneth Walker, 264 carries in that last season at Michigan State, 1,646 yards and 18 touchdowns on the ground. And obviously, you look over at the receiving chops, not even 20 catches in his career. 13 in this final season at Michigan State, a combined 6 in his first 2 seasons at Wake Forest. We're looking at a guy who scored over his career 36 touchdowns, including a whopping, again, 19 total. He did have, even though he didn't get a ton of receptions at Michigan State, he did have the 1 receiving touchdown. So look at that average. Look at that average go. So with that said, as we jump into Kenneth Walker, as you said, not Zach Reed rule approved. Zach, we'll start with you here. What are your thoughts here regarding Kenneth Walker?
But he didn't catch passes, but he did win the Doak Walker Award, which is the best running back in college football. And he also won the Walter Camp Player of the Year. It's the first running back to win both since Derrick Henry. So that's something. But to me, rarely do you encounter a more pronounced player development than the transition of Kenneth Walker from his first 2 years at Wake Forest to his junior season with Michigan State. Walker reshaped himself from an afterthought to perhaps the best pure runner, and I can probably cross out perhaps. I think he is the best runner in the 2022 class. And early in Walker's career, he approached the line of scrimmage carefully. He kind of reminded me of a cat trying to sneak up on its prey, but not so much anymore. Now Walker is exploding out of his stance, and he continues that urgency to and through the line of scrimmage. And on top of that exceptional acceleration, he also is very quick with his lateral cuts. So he is, planting and going, just change of direction is crazy. He's an ideal candidate, I think, to run in a zone blocking scheme where he's allowed to use his instincts to pick the open hole rather than having a predetermined path for him. But I love watching him carry the ball in his later film.
Very well. Foreman, kick it over to you. Kenneth Walker III, your thoughts, sir?
He was a terror against my guys this year, so we'll leave it at that. No, I think he's another good guy who he could become a project. He was kind of I was when I turned his tape on, I know this is going to be a really weird comp. This is going to be I was in the compy mood. I was in the compy mood when I was watching this. I don't know if did y'all watch this? Did you guys watch the Chiefs Steelers game on Sunday Night Football? I know it was a snoozer, and I know that everyone was rooting against the Steelers. My father-in-law is a big Steelers fan. I saw Jerick McKinnon in him. I don't know why. That's the name. I think they have different body types, but McKinnon was playing awesome on Sunday. I don't know where that came from. The 49ers must have been they were like, where was that for 2 years? You were just sitting in the injury tent the whole time. But I think he's a nice, quick player. He's got home run ability. He was consistently breaking off long runs. I think in his first game for Michigan State against Northwestern, he broke off. I think was that the 90-yard touchdown he had in that game. But I mean, multiple. I mean, I think he had 4 touchdowns in that game. He had 4 touchdowns against a top 10 defense in Michigan this year. He single-handedly won them that game against Michigan. But I remember sitting and watching the game like this guy's good, and he faded at the end of the year. That's why he wasn't there for the Heisman. I'm worried about. We'll get into the worries later, but he's got good speed. He's got good burst. He's quick. Got the long speed, home run ability. He's got good vision. I think there are a lot of pieces there that people are going to see and like, okay, we can use this as our 2-down back. There's pieces there that are intriguing. I wish there was more pieces of the pie. I would have loved to know what light clicked for him? I'm assuming probably the run blocking helped. Probably the run blocking probably a little bit better at Michigan State than we were seeing at Wake Forest. I'm sure that's part of it. But I would love to know what light quick, because if there's another level that he can get to, I would love to see that. I think if he can do that, I think this might be the best running back in the class. If we can get Kenneth Walker to be Kenneth Walker the third to Kenneth Walker the fourth.
I love it. I love it. That's fun. And I'll be brief here. And I'm not going to spoil where I have him ranked, but I will say this is probably my favorite watch that we've done so far in terms of players, like just watching a player. Again, I go into these with expectations of looking like, what can I rule out for all of these guys? And I just very much enjoyed watching him play. I loved, and one of the things that we haven't talked a ton about so far is, hey, what is someone's, whether it be an elite ability or just their trump card that they can throw down on the table and be able to leverage whenever. And I love his cutting because it's here today, gone today. It's just Houdini style. Like, no, I'm out of here. And I love the way that he picks through the trash and he picks those spots to be able to leverage that escape ability. And what you're doing in tight spaces as a running back, particularly in college, but definitely in the NFL, it becomes magnified. What you're doing in tight spaces, if you're going to be getting any kind of workload or be trusted with any kind of work, you have to be able to make plays and pick spots when it comes to finding holes, when it comes to getting to daylight, when it comes through picking through the trash or making those defenders miss at the line of scrimmage. And I really enjoy watching Kenneth Walker do all of those things, which I feel like sets him up for a lot of success. So he was probably my favorite watch of the group. While he may have been my favorite watch, I know that there's more to the story regarding Kenneth Walker, so we're not going to linger here just in terms of the favorite watch piece. Zach, we'll go to you first. Talk to us a little bit about maybe some of your concerns, some of the things that you see that you don't love regarding Kenneth Walker's game.
Yeah, so unfortunately, Walker is probably destined for two-down work since pass catching rarely crosses his mind. And not only did he have just 19 receptions in his 3 collegiate years, but, and this was a hint at his passing deficiencies, but he also rarely even slips into the flat to give his quarterback a release valve. So, he's not even, pass catching is not on his mind at all, even when it should be. Walker also gets lost pass blocking. He spends more time trying to sort out who he should be blocking than actually blocking somebody. And although Walker is fast enough to run to the outside, he occasionally forgoes a chance to bounce into space to put a hit on a defender, which I want him, because he does have that home run speed, I want him to get to the outside sometimes instead of trying to cut it back upfield and try to run somebody over, even though he does have that power. But to me, Kenneth Walker, very exciting when he has the ball. Volume is going to be king when it comes to running backs. So it'll be draft capital, it'll be landing spot. It'll be, is a team going to put him in a position where he's going to get 200, 250 carries? But I think Walker's lack of receiving chops, they're going to make the carries be that much more important to him in terms of fantasy.
Foreman, your thoughts on Walker's shortcomings?
I think my biggest concerns is with the lack of receiving work. Like you guys said, he is a good pure runner. I have little to go off of, little negatives to go off his running ability. My biggest things are exactly mimicking what Zach said: his pass protection and his limited catching ability. I don't know if he obviously he wasn't asked to catch because he averaged 6 yards. He averaged 6 catches per season. So I don't know if it's the fact that he can't do it or it's the fact that he wasn't asked to do it. And I think that's the biggest thing we're going to have to find out is, but I mean, Michigan State, they have Jalen Naylor. That's the only receiver coming to mind. But outside of that, there wasn't some big receiving threats there. I don't know if it was a Peyton Thorne issue. He wasn't looking there, but I mean, it's obviously the biggest concern is if you're not getting that third down work as a rookie, you're going to have to be very impressive on the first 2 downs, and which he can be. if he's in a competition, the fact that he not catching the ball could lose him from becoming a fantasy starter to a guy who is a 3rd round pick or a 2nd round pick or something where he's going to lose a lot of value because he's not seeing the field.
And this is a really interesting piece, and this we could probably have an entire segment of an episode dedicated to someone showing the ability to do something in college versus someone not being asked to do something in college. Of the catches that we did see for Walker, at least in my estimation, it wasn't that he was really clunky in terms of his ability to catch and transition into a runner. He's fine with that. They just didn't ask him to do a lot of that, right? So one of the questions and one of the things that you as a listener, you're going to have to decide or understand or continue to watch when it comes to pro days or the NFL scouting combine, be on the lookout for Walker when it comes to these pass catching drills. Are they asking him to do these certain things? Is he being clean with his catches? Is it something where he's fighting the football? Whatever information that you can take in here with Walker, I think it's going to be important for you to understand and determine what is it a case that he can't, or is it a case that they didn't ask him to, and can he? And typically, we know that if a college coach has asked this person to do it in college, then the NFL is going to be like, hey, we saw him do this, so we're apt to put him in the role that says that we're going to do this. We didn't see it with Walker, so we don't know that they're going to be asking him to do those things. All of that, and the fact that the light doesn't come on until you get to Michigan State. So one of the questions becomes, what happened? Like, why did you have to leave Wake Forest to be this monster? And it was awesome for you to be able to do this, but where was it before? And hey, does that even matter? So a lot of questions with Walker in terms of how it all came together in the very end for what is an incredibly decorated running back, like you said, with the Doak Walker and the Walter Camp, just a absolutely stud showing to close out his career. On to the second half of our 6 running backs today. So number 4 on the list for DLF here is one Kyron Williams, running back, Notre Dame. Again, looking at measurements here, somewhere between 5'9", 195, 5'9", 200. We'll see exactly what's going on there. But another junior, early declare here, and a guy who saw over the last 2 seasons, he went over 200 carries in both seasons. A little bit more efficient in his sophomore campaign, where he went for 1,100 yards, and just under 1,000 yards this last year in 2021. We did see 27 total touchdowns over those 2 seasons in terms of the rushing game. And again, major Zach Reed rule vibes here. 35 catches as a sophomore, 42 catches as a junior, and the one lonely catch there as a freshman. But that's 78 catches over 3 seasons. And again, 31 total touchdowns, which is really cool to be able to see. Kyron Williams, we've seen him with a really good offense that was led by a quarterback with Ian Book, and we saw him in a offense this season with the Jack Cohn and the amalgamation of other players that they had back there. But we saw Kyron Williams be someone who could be productive at any rate. Foreman, will kick it over to you first. Dibs on Kyron Williams.
I think watching these guys back to back was a very interesting juxtaposition there, where you're just seeing a guy who loves catching the ball versus a guy who just was allergic to catching the ball. He's got natural hands. I have first thing is I have written in bold letters, I have slippery. I felt he was a very slippery guy. He's got devastating cuts. I love his cutting ability. He fights well. He runs hard for a guy his size. He's going to come in that somewhere between the 190 to 200 range. I would never accuse a college of inflating people's weights and heights. That never happens. He does a nice job. He does a good job for his size. Once again, I want to talk about. I think it's important. We're looking at it not just as comparing apples to apples here. He does a good job for his size, picking up blitzes. He's got good vision. he can make. I love him. I love his ability to make a defenders miss in a phone booth. I want to see if you can make those guys miss with those cuts and in those short areas to help to when your line's on it, when your lines are helping you out, how can you create your own yards? That's what I want to see with some of these running backs. He's more of a patient than indecisive. I like that about him. He's got shifty. We'll go put along with slippery. I like Kyron. I felt like he was someone I was kind of hesitant about. It goes back to the things you hate, those Notre Dame running backs. But if he's a little different than the Notre Dame running backs in the past, he's not Josh Adams. He's not Dexter Williams. He's a very different player than those two guys.
How dare you besmirch the name of Dexter Williams? Unbelievable.
I am the number one Josh Adams truther on Twitter, J Mike. Don't ever. I love Josh Adams. He's still good. His day is yet to come.
The best is yet to come. Zach, what say ye in regards to Kyron Williams?
So I know we've been talking a little Marvel kind of backstage in our DM, but when Ant-Man shrinks down to throw a pint-sized punch, he's laying into bad guys with over 7,000 newtons of force. That's more than 35 times his body weight. And while it's not confirmed that PIM particles are part of the offseason regimen at Notre Dame, 5'9", 195-pound Kyron Williams may indeed have superpowers. It's difficult for an undersized back to carve out a role in the NFL, but Williams has all the tools to do that. He's a plus pass catcher. He's got the ability to make plays on even poorly thrown balls. Williams' post-catch transitions back to a runner are often quick enough to gain him extra yardage, which is one of the things that I look at a lot with a running back is not just being able to catch the ball, but being able to catch the ball and then tack on extra yards. But the most surprising aspect to me of Kyron Williams in the passing game is his ability to block. And Matt, you mentioned that he does a good job both identifying and occupying blitzers and also getting downfield to block if somebody else has the ball. And as a ball carrier, Williams has good vision both between the tackles and to the outside, although he prefers to run inside, which kind of sent me back to like Devin Singletary, who was that smaller player who couldn't get outside or didn't get outside as much, but ran inside. And I think that he is a dynamic cutter. He's always attacking and pressing the defender with that first step of his plant. And he does this thing. And when I used to coach basketball, coach guards, you can make a crossover as quick as you want. If you don't make it go somewhere, if you don't make your first step after that cross go somewhere, it doesn't matter how fast you made that cut. Kyron Williams does that. He'll make that quick cut, but he makes it go vertically. And so the defender has to catch up both, laterally where he went, but also because he's going up the field attacking. And so those are the things that I really like about Kyron Williams' game.
Man, the Devin Singletary vibes. That's 100% the name that I have as well. I'm like going,
but better pass catcher.
Yes, but just in terms of how he navigates between the tackles, I feel like that is so spot on. And it's funny, we were talking about games from this weekend and just seeing Devin Singletary pick his spots, be really clean between the tackles. And obviously Buffalo did whatever they wanted to do. So not about them right now. When it comes to Kyron Williams, you talk about a spicy meatball. This guy is ready to rumble with anybody who tackles him, anybody who's pushing him out of bounds after plays. Like, he's ready to mix it up. Like, always. he's that friend that like you go anywhere with, and like somebody's looking at y'all crazy. Like, do you see these suckers over here looking at us crazy? Like, let's go. Like, it's about to be a problem. Like, that's that friend that Kyron is. And
it's like hanging out in Canton with Shane Manila.
There you go. Shout out to Shane, but I thoroughly enjoyed Kyron Williams. Again, I'm not going to spoil where we'll shake things out, but his ability to be so multifaceted and to be so good in so many areas, I really believe that his game, I won't say it's the most well-rounded, but I really enjoyed the ability that he's pretty good, if not great, in so many different areas. And I like that about him in a class where, as we've talked previously, some of the fields look a lot like the middle of the Midwest somewhere in Kansas, something that everything's pretty flat. I like the variability of him being able to do a lot of things really well. Obviously, there's some things that may not be so wonderful about Kyron. Foreman, first word on drawbacks.
I think one of my biggest drawbacks is I'm worried about his size. Obviously, he packs a punch, but is he going to hold up to the NFL at 5'9", 195, 200? We've seen it before. I know anyone who was on draft Twitter had saw Ray Garvin. I don't know if you saw it, but if you follow Ray Garvin, you saw him compare him to Austin Eckler. I think that's his ceiling. I think the traits are there. I'm just worried about him, being able to get those carries on first and second down because of his size. And I don't want him his ability as a pass catcher to pigeonhole him as a third down satellite back, because if he does, he could easily become Giovanni Bernard. And that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. He's just not going to be the guy who's going to help you win your leagues. He's going to be that guy who's maybe who's going to be a flex player, or at best maybe a backup RB2. So I'm really concerned with his fit to make sure that we're seeing him get those first and second down carries. I think he can do it. I'm just worried about a team giving him those opportunities.
Good deal, Zach. Over to you.
Every hero has their kryptonite, and for Kyron Williams, that fatal flaw is the lack of elite speed for me. It's the reason that he tends to be hesitant to run outside. And Williams also gets caught from behind on potential breakaway runs. And although I think he has very good balance, he still invites a little too much contact for me, especially for a smaller back. And look, in the world of the NFL, it's the concerns that Matt has. Bigger and stronger is often analogous to better. Kyron Williams has an uphill climb to be relevant, but he profiles to me as an immediate, what I call a pass catcher plus. So he's the player who's going to come in and be that third down back, but in the event of an injury, he can assume a bigger role. And he also has a chance to grow his role a la Matt Breida, Philip Lindsay, Austin Eckler, Biff, Pow, Sock.
I like that. And that's going to be one of the questions is, after his first season, especially if he's profiling, like we're saying, as someone who can do a lot of things really well, but not someone that you're going to give all the work to early, it's going to be really interesting to watch the value in fantasy or in Dynasty of how this player gets treated after year one, when he's not running a backfield and it takes him a little bit longer to get increased workload or be trusted with more in the eyes of all those guys that you mentioned. And if we look at a ceiling of Austin Eckler type, and we look at Devin Singletary, neither one of those guys came on the scene in their rookie seasons and just blew their doors off, right? It was a case of being trusted with more, even when they've invited other players in to challenge them being able to beat people back and say, no, I'm the guy. So it'll be interesting to see how that navigates. Zach, were you about to say something else there?
No, I think that's exactly it. I think that you're going to see him. The nice thing though is, again, we got this Cape Pan Prairie class, just flat as far as the eye can see with a bunch of little scrub brushes, that it's a good class for Kyron Williams to be in, because I think that he is one of the better running backs in this class, which could end up enticing a team to give him draft capital. And if he goes in, the first couple 3 rounds, I'm excited, depending on where he lands, you could see a path for him to be very good. I mean, even Matt, you kind of poo-pooed Gio Bernard, but Gio Bernard's first 3 seasons, he was like a 700-yard rusher plus 50 or 60 catches. Like that's a really nice running back. If that's the Kyron Williams path, I'm happy.
I wouldn't say you are right. I did poo-poo Gio Bernard a little bit, but I mean,
He
we
was my
saw,
boy.
yeah, we had Gio there, and then we saw Jeremy Hill come in, and it was just like Gio's an afterthought because of.
You're making J Mike sad. He was a Bengals guy.
lifelong.
Jeremy Hill. We hardly knew ye. Those first 2 years just phenomenal. Anyways, I think like I was saying, like I just don't want them to. This other guy comes in. This guy he's a little bit bigger. He's a little bit stronger. He's got a little more power. I don't want that guy to come in and all of a sudden he's losing carries because it's what the NBA does. It's load management. We're seeing that more and more in athletics, and I think it's good because it's valuable for the players because it prolongs their career. But I think the prolonging can hurt you in the short term because you're just not seeing. I mean, I'm curious about when the last true feature back is going to happen. I'm not sure when it's going to happen, but I think that will be within the next 10 to 15 years, where maybe even sooner than that, we're not seeing a guy get huge workloads where you're getting 350 touches in a year, because that's just not the way the NFL is built. I mean, you've got guys like Micah Parsons, who's 250 pounds running 4.4 at you. These guys who are 195 pounds just aren't going to hold up. So, but yeah, I think that's, like I said, his just size, just him getting that consistent work where he's going to be where it's maybe not a 1A, 1B, it's a 1 versus 2. So good player. Don't get me wrong. Good player. I just have a little bit of concerns, but I think you could say that about just about any running back in this class.
No doubt. Last couple of guys here, and we're coming up on the hour mark. So I don't know that we'll have as much to say about these next two, but maybe you guys will surprise me. We'll see here. We're kicking things off here. Number 5, as we turn the corner into the final stretch here. Number 5 in DLF's rankings for running backs. One, Rashad White, running back, Arizona State. Sneaky old guy here. Old guy vibes. He just turned 23 years old. So a lot of the ageist out there are going to be counting Rashad White out immediately. However, after spending some time at Mount San Antonio College for JUCO, he comes onto the scene in his final season as a senior at Arizona State. And after 2 years at Arizona State, we see a lot of positive production here. 1,000 yards this last season, averaged over 5.5 yards per carry, 15 touchdowns on the ground. I mean, the guy was straight getting it done. And if that wasn't enough, 43 receptions for 456 yards in that final season as well. He finishes with 22 total touchdowns in his career there at 2 years at Arizona State, over 1,400 yards on the ground, over 600 yards receiving. Man, a lot of production in a very short amount of time. I can't remember who started off things last time, so I'll just kick it over to Zach Reed.
I'll be here. 199 carries in JUCO at Mount San Antonio for 1,264 yards. So like he's got a little extra wear on that you're not seeing if you're just looking at the Arizona State profile. But when you're following in a long line of elite running backs, names like Eno Benjamin and Kalen Ballage, it's difficult to live up to that hype. And for his part, I think Rashad White finished 2021 with the Sun Devils with 182 carries, 1,000 yards rushing, 43 receptions. That's nice. White does his best work as a receiver, where he nearly always catches the ball quietly away from his body, which is normally something you think about with wide receivers, but he is very good hands catching, very good at catching the ball away from his body. Once the ball is secured, he regularly gets the drops on defenders with his ability to transform quickly back into a runner. When White is utilized outside of the tackles, his speed makes him a threat to break off chunk runs. And although running up the middle isn't his forte, White does a very good job finishing runs, nearly always falling forward to get those extra yards.
All right, Foreman, over to you now. Words in reference to one Rashad White.
Another great pass catcher here. I think that's going to be something where he's going to is going to get him playing time right off the rip. The good burst. I like that he can play out wide as well too. I want to see that versatility with the running backs. He's got. I really like his feet. If I can be Rex Ryan here for a minute, I thought he had very nimble feet. I like that about his game. He's a guy that I want to try and find some of that if we can get some of those, even we see some highlights with him with JUCO. He's a guy that I want to dig in just some more of, just so I can kind of get more of a picture of what's going on with his game. He does a good job running through arm tackles as well too. Liked his burst. He gets downhill quick. He's not Spiller. He's not sitting there thinking about it. He makes his mind up and he goes. And I enjoyed that about watching him, about Rashad White.
6'2", 210. I neglected to mention that earlier. One of the taller guys there, and obviously pretty good frame there at 210. I think one of the things that can be missed with Rashad White is that over and over you see so many lackluster plays in the Arizona State offense. Like the offense kind of just gets in these spurts where like nothing's happening, nothing good, and then like he breaks them out. Like Jaden Daniels, get out of the way. Like I got this, just give me the ball. I'll make some things happen. And I really like specifically his ability as a pass catcher and being able to do things in space. I like that about him. Not overly flashy, not someone who's going to make everybody miss. He can chain some moves together nicely, which is good to see. But a pretty good player with good skills and obviously things that translate easily to the NFL. When we look at things that, hey, maybe we're not so thrilled about, Zach, we'll start with you. What do you have in reference to White's drawbacks?
So, although Rashad White has done admirably separating himself from the previous Arizona State backs, one thing he seemingly cannot escape is the initial defender. He often goes down on first contact, and White also struggles to attack in short yardage and goal line situations. And I think that it's because he lacks both the power and decisiveness to get to pay dirt in those goal line situations. All of these things kind of reinforce the feeling to me that even at 6'2", 210 pounds, White feels a little thin. He feels it. He gives me Kerryon Johnson vibes. That like that's the feeling I get from him. Not a comp, but just that kind of, I don't know. Best case scenario, I think Rashad White ends up in a backfield as the pass catcher paired with a 2-down back. That type of role gives White some standalone value with also the potential to be a decent plug-in in the event of injury. But to me, it's difficult to see a path for him to get to a full 3-down workload.
Foreman, what say ye?
His offensive line did not do him any favors. That was the biggest thing. It was I was watching one of the. It seemed like every other play, his offensive line was a holding penalty, or I think it was the Utah game. I've written down so many penalties, like it's holding, it's false starts, like it was. I think that was. I think I don't want to say that was holding him back, but I'm not sure if we got the full picture of Rashad White because of some of the offensive line issues that he was having. I'm not sure if you guys caught this or not, but there was a couple times in the BYU game where it seemed like him and Jaden Daniels were just in complete. Daniels was facing one way and White's running the other way, and I don't know what was going on there. I don't know whose fault that was, whether it was White's fault, whether it's Daniel's fault, but that was just something that I found to be really odd because if it happens once, I'm gonna say it was an aberration, but I saw it happen 3-4 times. So I'm wondering about I don't want to say his football IQ, but there was a missing piece there that I wasn't really quite sure exactly what was going on. and then just made me stop and question what was going on there. Like I said, I just found it to be odd.
It's like, yeah, what is the deal with all of this miscommunication? What's going on here? Who's messing things up? I'll save some thoughts on White here for the sake of time. Let's get to our final man of the evening, one Tyler Algiere. I've heard his name pronounced a few different ways, but in the majority of broadcasts, they're saying Algiere, so that's what I'm going with at this time. Running back out of BYU. You can find him anywhere between 5'11", 220, 5'11", 225 in terms of listings. Now, obviously, we saw him be really productive the season before when Zach Wilson was still there. And this season, he put that into overdrive in 2021. 276 carries in this final season at BYU. Over 1,600 yards rushing. My goodness, that is work. 23 touchdowns on the ground for this season, 36 for his career. And wouldn't you know, in this final season, 28 catches. Zach Reed rule approved for 199 yards. So not a ton of work in terms of production, but hey, he's getting the work. He's getting the work there. 46 catches for his career and 37 total touchdowns. A guy, when he starts going downhill, it is hard to bring him down. Zach, what do you have on Mr. Algiere?
So I think if there's one play that serves as the embodiment of Tyler Algiere, it's the seemingly innocuous pass play at the end of the third quarter of the BYU-Arizona State game. Algiere goes low to try to chip a defender. He's unsuccessful. The defender slips into the backfield to hit the quarterback. The resulting pressure forces a bad throw. Ultimately, there's an interception just in front of Algiere. You think the play's done, the corners is gone, touchdown. Instead of giving up, Algiere immediately gives chase, catching the corner after 55 yards. And instead of simply making the tackle, he punches the ball out, forcing a fumble that's recovered by BYU. And that, to me, is Tyler Algiere. You know, he ran for almost 2,500 yards, 29 touchdowns as a high school senior in California. He amassed more than 5,000 yards in his career at Henry Kaiser High School, and no one was interested. Algiere eventually walked on at BYU and promptly had more tackles as a sophomore linebacker than he had carries in his first 2 seasons with the Cougars. And it got better. With a combination of very good interior vision and a deceptively brisk initial burst, Algiere rolled up 1,600 yards, 23 touchdowns in 2021. He gets up to the line of scrimmage quickly, but Algiere has another gear when he finds an open hole. He's got enough long speed to break off chunk runs and enough instinct to use angles to help him continue gaining extra yards on those runs. And although Algiere is better between the tackles, he's not afraid to cut outside to avoid defenders, and he's got the wheels to get there.
Very well, Foreman. Over to you, sir.
I had no expectations going into watching his tape. The one thing I remember I had sent you guys a tweet. I think he led college football the last 2 years in missed tackles, which was interesting. I mean, I was like, I'm not up watching many BYU games. So I'm like, I wasn't really super aware of who he was. I turned his tape on. He is the first running back that I watched where I went back on my eyes went wide because I think he's the most consistent running back. He does the best job of blending speed and power. I loved watching him when he's on the sideline. He's getting the sideline. There's a DB close on him as the DB's getting him, and he just goes. He's able to go through the angle. You think the player has an angle, and then 10 yards down the field, they don't have the angle. I was impressed with him. He needs a little bit of pass blocking work, but like Zach said, he explodes out of the backfield. He's gone. I think he does the best job of finding the hole, getting there. I don't know if you're having a raccoon problem or something, J Mike, but I've heard you saying something about picking through the trash, I think at least 3 or 4 times here. And I think he does a great job about that as well too. With like with PFF's had charged the most tackles. I saw that on tape. I was impressed with his size, the speed. I when I was first watching him, I'm like, all right, does he have that extra gear? And then you keep watching him, and he has that extra gear. I think he has the ability to be a guy who's going to get drafted a little bit later, who's going to be that guy who can just seemingly be like, okay, he's going to come in. He does a little less expectation. He can come in and he can be the guy. I was very impressed with his body of work.
He gives league winner vibes, right? Like late pick, not doing much in the beginning of the season. He's behind, like maybe third string on the depth chart, whatever the case is. Some injuries happen ahead of him, and he comes in week 12, and he's breaking off chunk plays, and you're like, what is happening right now? And just earning all sorts of work. His ability to just go, and when he gets going downhill, and I think we vary a little bit, Foreman. I don't so much like his ability to pick through the trash as I say sometimes, and stop trying to get cameras on my issues with rodents and such around my home, and whatever else is happening. But I don't necessarily love his ability to pick through and find places, because I feel like when there's penetration, like it's almost like his feet stop and it's like, I don't know what to do, and I don't love that. But when he's going downhill, when he's got space, and if you think about him in a place. I don't want to add more running backs, but I just think about situation wise. If you think about a place like San Francisco where they throw the little short toss and just say, hey, go, right? Short toss and find a lane and just run, they'll be able to give him a little bit of space, and he can just really hit it and make people pay at the second level and make DBs look real bad also. A lot of good things there. I like a lot of what he has to do, but anyway, let's keep it moving here. Zach, any final words here on Algiere?
In spite of his 28 receptions this past year, Algiere is not a natural in the passing game. His routes are really slow to develop, and he often will abandon routes altogether when he realizes he's not open initially. Like he's just like, there's a corner here, I guess I'm done, instead of continuing on and trying to give the quarterback a release valve. Algiere also struggles with holding blocks. So he gets too vertical, I think, and loses leverage. And can't always keep a defender occupied. It's also interesting to me to note that although Algiere is 220 pounds, he doesn't have great finishing power. Like he loses a lot of battles with linebackers, even when he's the aggressor. And so as impressive as his final year was at BYU, Algiere feels kind of like an Alexander Madison type, where he's going to be very good in games where he's tapped to start in. Like he'll be that RB1 in the games that he starts. But I think he lacks the juice to take command of a backfield. After all, even though BYU recovered the fumble, that play was still a net 53-yard loss.
Hey, it's still first down. It's still first down.
It was.
Absolutely. So that's all six gentlemen for the evening. And it wouldn't be a hootenanny if we didn't give at least an update as to where we have these six guys graded against each other. Not overall. Obviously, if you all want to sprinkle in some overall, if you've got other folks that you've already graded, you're more than welcome to do so. But specifically, these six against each other, what's the landscape of how you have them laid out? Whether you want to tier it, whether you want to rank them. Again, these are film grades that we're talking about, people. Still much to be done in this overall process. Whoever like to go first, if you're ready, go for it.
So for me, it's just exactly this order. Like that's the order of how I have them. I do think Breece Hall stands to me above the rest of this group by a little bit. Then I like Isaiah Spiller, Walker, and Williams in kind of a second tier. And then I think there's a little bit of a drop for me to Rashad White and Tyler Algiere. Actually, I think I may have Algiere ahead of White. I'll have to go back and look at that. But they're down quite a bump to me from those top four.
Okay, Foreman, over to you.
So I have Algiere as my top running back so far of these 6 guys.
Sucky ducky now. Yeah.
I saw the funny thing is I loved I love Alexander Madison coming out of Boise. I thought great player. Still don't think we've seen the best of Alexander Madison. So I'm glad you saw that too, because that's kind of the vibes I got with him too. I don't know if Madison is the Dalvin Cook. Anyways, I'll get to getting here. After Algiere, I have Brees Hall, and then I have Kyron. I have Spiller. Spiller could be higher for me. The indecisive thing just it doesn't mesh with me. I have Walker, and then I have White. I think to me, White leaves the most to be desired. But that's the 6 I have. I told you guys before we got on here. I told you guys I'm going to be higher on one of these guys than you guys are. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. I hope this is not Bruce Anderson 2.0. I'm going to leave it at that.
Here's hoping that is not the case for everyone listening involved here. Hey, I love this because we all have very different lists, and this is good. My top back, and I did a rerun through because I was like, all right, and I told you guys previously, I have a chunk of these guys graded within like 0.5 of each other, and I did a rerun through, and I made a couple of tweaks once I did my rerun throughs. I was like, okay, I like some of these things a little differently, but they're all now still within 1.5 points of each other. My top back standing alone, but again, it's all the same tier. Kenneth Walker, easily my favorite. Little misdirect there. I told you guys earlier he was my favorite. If he wasn't at the top, just kidding. He is at the top. That's my guy. Kenneth Walker, the third at the top there, and then essentially the same grade. I have the exact same grade for Isaiah Spiller, for Kyron Williams, and for Brees Hall. I think if you remove the pass pro grade, Brees Hall is going to be the one that has the best grade, but his pass pro is generally not good, and I don't enjoy watching him protect the passer. But if you take that away, I think he has the highest grade of all those that group of guys. I've got Algiere tier down from all of them, and Rashad White bringing up the rear in this group. So this is fun, fellas. We are back. The hootenanny. The 2-step is getting after it. I love what we've got going on. This is fun. Foreman, final words on the evening.
Looking forward to doing this again real soon.
Man, come on. I'll sneak my last words in here as well. It's good to be back with you guys. It's great to be back behind the microphone, and it's great to be grinding this pencil and paper life in these films. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 films, whatever we can find for these guys. I really enjoy this process. And even though this class isn't as star-studded as the last couple in terms of the heights of players, it's still fun to be able to get eyes on these guys and seeing what could be if opportunities break right for these guys in terms of draft capital and everything else. I will leave the final words in the outro now to you, one Zach Reed.
Gentlemen, this was so much fun. And somebody the other day asked me, why do you start so early? Why do you put out, your film grades and rankings as early as you do before the draft? And the cop-out answer is, to get the information out to people because they want that content. The real answer is it gives me an excuse to get in a room with you two and chop it up. And like, this is my favorite time of year to be able to do this. And so, thanks again for indulging me coming on and doing this. And I think it ends up being really good content, really something that people can learn from, either by our evaluations or, man, those guys are idiots, I'm going to go look at the film myself or evaluate myself. And either way, that's beneficial to whoever's listening. So appreciate you, gentlemen. Appreciate everyone for listening. You can find J Mike at J Mike Check. Matt is at Fat Mormon. I am at Tacit Assassin 13. This has been the Dynasty Dummies on the DFPN network, the only network in town. Go follow the DFPN network account. Go follow the Dynasty Dummies account, and everybody associated with the network. They're not just my favorite analysts. They're my family. They're worth a follow. So appreciate you hanging with us. We'll be back next week to do 6 more running backs. And I think that'll do it. Thank you for listening. This has been the Dynasty Dummies.